All right, so we're going to start off today's lesson by helping us remember how we solve for a percent of a number. So in our first example, we have the seventh grade class, and they held an end of the year dance. Of the 300 seventh graders, 246 decided to attend, and it's asking what percent, and it's a big keyword, so I'm going to put a box around what percent of the seventh grade class attended the end of year dance. So earlier in the year, we learned about the technique of WON, the words original and new. So I'm going to set up a WON proportion and I'm going to solve for it. It's going to look just like this. Now, regardless of what the question is asking about, I know that this part right here is my default. Should be percent and 100. In this situation, we're talking about students. So the what, the W, I'm going to put STU for students, and the original amount is going to be 300. The original amount is 300 because the 300 correlates or connects with 100% of the students. 100% of the students is 300, that's why I stacked them together. Next, it says what percent. If I don't know what it is, that's what I'm looking for. So the what percent should be down here. The X connects with this percent. The only other number in the problem is that 246. And that is talking about students. So let's break down what this ratio is actually talking about. If 300 students is 100%, then 246 students is what percent? That's what I'm looking for. Now, to make this a little bit easier, what I can do is I can cross out these zeros because they cancel each other out. This is the same effect as if I was reducing this by 100. So 3 times x is going to be 3x. And then 1 times 246 will just simply be 246. From there, I can go ahead and divide it out because I'm trying to isolate or get the x by itself. I'm trying to figure out what this number is. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3, like I would normally do if I was solving for an equation. And I have 246 divided by 3. I'm going to go ahead and just do it the long division way here. I know that 3 times 8 is going to give me 24 with a difference of 0. And then 3 times 2 is going to give me 6 with another difference of 0. So 82 represents the percent of the students that attended the year-end dance. All right, so try number 2, following these exact same steps, set up the WON for this one and see if you can figure out what percent this farmer sold, because it says a farmer decides to sell 30 pounds of his small 80 pounds potato crop. What percent, so again, looking for the percent, of the crop did he sell? So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out this WN. All right, hopefully that was a good enough pause. Now, if you got your answer correct, you would have had a decimal answer. So let's see if that comes up. So again, that's percent, that's 100, always by default. What we're talking about are pounds of potatoes. And he starts out by saying that he's got a total of 80 pounds to begin with. That's 100% of all he has. And he sells only a part of it, so that's the 30. And then again, what percent? That's my X. So again, I can reduce this. I'm reducing it by 10 by crossing out those zeros. 8 times X is going to give me 8X. And 30 times 10 is going to be 300. Dividing both of these by 8. I'm going to cross these out. X is over here by himself. And do the long division on this side so you guys can see how I did it. So 8 times 3 is going to give me 24. So I get kind of close, but there's a difference of 6. We'll bring down that 0, and 8 times 7 gets me kind of close again because that's going to give me 56. There's a difference of 4. I'm going to add a decimal and bring down this next 0. And then 8 times 5 gives me that 40, and I am done with the division. So this is my answer, 37.5%. Okay, so what does this have to do with our new topic? So this is kind of a reminder, and that's the reason why I went fast with this, because this is a topic or a technique that we used earlier in the year, and so I went a little bit quicker than normal, but I wanted you to see or remember and get a recap of how we did this so we can use it on the actual topic. The actual topic that we're trying to figure out today is how do I interpret information from a circle graph? So let's start out by taking a look at what circle graphs do for us. So each portion of this circle graph that I'm looking at, big or small, is represented by a percentage. So it represents a percentage of that graph. Now, of course, the bigger the percentage, the bigger the number it represents. So that's the correlation there. Now, if I add up all of the percents, the sum of all those percents is going to be 100%, because I'm talking about the entire graph if I add everything up, right? So let's see if we can figure out how I can get data and put it into a circle graph and make those correlations. So I'm going to start off by looking at my missing information. Now, it doesn't tell you directly, but all it says is that these are the extracurricular activities. These are the number of the students that participated in those. And then we're supposed to figure out what the percents are for that. But I need information. Remember in the beginning, whenever we looked at our WON, I needed that 100%. That's a default information that I need. And it's not directly given to me here. How could I find that? Well, I'm missing this last column because this last column gives me the total or the 100% that I'm looking for. So if I add all these numbers up, I will get a total of 50 students. That's my 100%. So that equals 100% of the students. Now, the same way I totaled this up, that equals 50. If I total up all these percents that we're about to calculate, that should give me 100. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna hop back and forth between our, let me go and get this, our workspace. So I have pre-filled our workspace. And if you notice, they're all the same. And there's a reason for that. Number one, to save a little bit of time. But number two, if all of these questions are talking about the same data, I can use the same WON setup every single time. Okay, what does that look like? Let's find out. So I know I'm looking for sports. So let's jump back to sports. 16 students participated in sports, okay? So if I'm looking at that breakdown, I'm still talking about students. 100% are still defaulted here on every single one. And if you notice, 50 is over 100 on all the activities because that's still 100% and it's gonna stay 100%. We're not gonna lose any kids in this data because the data has already been collected. So from there, the number of students that participate in sports are 16. And again, I just got that from the table. So now I can go ahead and cross multiply and divide. And I'm gonna be following the same steps that we did earlier. So I'm gonna cross out those zeros. And then I can go ahead and multiply 5 times x, and then 10 times 160. 5 times x is 5x. 16 times 10 is 160. I kind of said that early. And then divide both sides by 5. These will cancel out, leaving me with just x by itself. And then this long division here, I'm gonna work out by taking 160. 5 times 3 gives me 15, difference of 1. And then 5 times 2 gives me the 10 that I need. And so I have 32%. Now, what would change from the next category? Well, the only thing that would change would be the number of students that participated in student council or debate or music or in nothing. So whenever I get these percents, I can go ahead and take my data and put it back into our table. So we figured out that 16 students out of 50 accounts for 32%. And I can put that right here, 32%. Now here's what I'm gonna challenge you to do. The same way that we set up that answer, dealing with sports, I want you to try and set up for student council, debate, music, and none. Now, this is gonna be a long haul and a long pause. So I'm gonna ask you to pause the video, try and enter in the number of students in each one of these categories, cross multiply and divide, and find out what your answer is. When we come back after the pause, you'll be able to check your answers, all right? So go ahead and pause the video now and see if you can figure out each one of these percents. Okay, hopefully that was a long enough, good enough pause. Probably took you maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 almost, because there's a lot to do. If you're using a calculator, maybe a little bit faster, but either way. Let's go ahead and take a look. Student council, looking at my data, it says 8. So I'm gonna put 8 right here. I'd cross multiply and divide. If I cross multiplied and divided, you would have gotten that x was equal to 16%. All right, so let's take a look at debate. If I did the same process for debate, I would have put debate in as number 4 because 4 students participated in debate. Cross multiply and divide again, and then I would have figured out that the debate team would have consisted of 8% of students. For music, I would have selected 9 for my data, and then put down that for my cross multiply and divide, and then your answer would have been, you would have gotten 18%. For the none, for the students that participated in none of the activities, it would have been 13. Cross multiplying and dividing would have given me the answer of 26%. So now what I can do is I can take these numbers that I calculated, or that you calculated, and enter them into here. So I have 16% for student council, so that's 16% here, and then 8% for debate, 18% for music, and then at the end, 26% for neither or none of them. So now I can go ahead and translate this over here. My music, or sorry, let's go with student council because that's coming up next. That's 16% there, 8% for debate, and then 18% for music, and then 26 for none. So if you notice, the correlation between the size here and the numbers here is that the larger the portion, of the circle, of the actual circle graph, that correlates to, or that equals, a larger percent. Okay, now if the percent was given and the number of students was unknown, so if I had the opposite information, if they gave me these percents and this part was blank, then how would that change the process? Well, I would still set up the WN, so I'd still be talking about students. I would still be talking about 100% of the students, and so that would still be 50. But here's where the change would happen. The students is what's unknown. So I'm gonna put a big box around students being unknown. That is going to be my X. And then of course, the percents that I'm given would go here. And then I'd cross multiply and divide all over again. So the process wouldn't necessarily change, just where the numbers are located would change. So let's take a look at that. Good example. We have some 6th graders and they participated in a fitness challenge. They had lifting weights, running, and swimming. I need to find out the number of students that participated in each because I have the percents already. I just need to figure out how many kids participated. Now, there's one change in addition, that there were 250 6th graders. That is my 100%. So whenever I set up my WON, again, I'm looking at the same set of data for all 3 of these activities. So my WN will be the same for all of them. And now if you look, my 100% is 250 because that's all the kids. And my X this time is on my students because I don't know the number of students. My percent is given to me. So what I can do, I can look at lifting weights, look at the percent right there, it is 8. So I'm gonna put down an 8 right there. Now, just like above, you're still gonna cross multiply and divide, so the process isn't gonna change that way. So I'm gonna go ahead and cross out these zeros to make it a little bit easier to calculate. 25 times 8 and 10 times x. Well, 10 times x is 10x. 25 times 8 is gonna give me 200. And then, again, I'm still dividing by the number connected to the x. As a reminder, this is known as the coefficient. I can cross out these zeros again, and then 20 divided by 1 will just give me 20. I'm going to follow that same process for here and here. Now again, just like we did above, pause the video and see if you can get these answers on your own and then come back and compare. Okay, hopefully that was good enough pause. Let's see what you guys did. Running. So for lifting weights, let's remind ourselves we got 20 there. For running, my percent is going to be 30. So I'm going to put that 30% right here. If I cross multiply and divide and got my answer, it would have been that x was equal to 75 students. For swimming, if I put down swimming, it would have been 5%. So 5% of the students would have been 12.5. Now, here's a real world issue. Now, if I did my percents correctly and I did all the work correctly, 12.5 would be my accurate mathematical answer, but it wouldn't be my real world answer. You can't have half a student. They're either a student or they're not. So we round this to a real world number. So this is approximately 13 students. So whenever I fill this out, I have my running. We said that was 75 students from right there. And then 13 students, or approximately 13 students, were participating in swimming. So hopefully following along with all the percent proportions and solving gave you a better idea of how to deal with circle graphs and how to deal with the percents. But as always, if you need more help, come see me in tutoring.